Welcome to our event. Welcome to the actual event. I can't believe this. I can't believe this happened. I was talking to Daniel yesterday, and we was looking down from the upstairs, and I said I can't believe that I started a blog a couple years ago, and now there are people here from Bolivia, there are people here from the UK, people here from all over the US. Everyone is here because you either want to start an online business, you already have one that you want to improve, or you're just generally curious. So the way that we're going to kind of structure the material over the next day or so is I have a standard curriculum, and these are just points that I want to go through so that you guys can understand the basic framework. We're going to talk about a few things today. When I talk about building an online business, I'm going to use the context of building a digital course because that's what I know best and is what I can teach. But keep in mind that the digital course is the product at the end of the tunnel, but the whole idea of building up momentum around a business that exists online is there are a lot of universal elements to it, which is the reason why, we have people like Manish here who has a product in the physical space, not even just the physical space, but the wearable technology space. And he still uses a lot of the same material that we use to launch our product. In fact, Pavlok, which is now like a pretty big deal in tech space, was launched off of a blog, right? Hack the System. We're gonna talk about building a digital course from scratch, including all the tech. We're gonna talk about getting eyeballs in your content. We're gonna talk about getting people to buy your stuff. Those are the three main things. Having something that people wanna buy, getting people to see it, and then getting people to actually buy it. Okay, so let's just talk about the basic elements of an online business. So the first thing is content, and to clarify kind of what encompasses content here. Everything that we're doing online now is content. You have blogs, you have YouTubes, you have podcasts. Those are the traditional big three of content, but even social media in its own right now is a form of short form and sometimes long form content. The whole kind of idea of what content consists of has been morphed almost kind of like into an amorphous blob. If you go on Facebook, it's just a constant stream of content, and all of that stuff is like either a blog post or an ad or a video to watch. It's all content. We all need some sort of content, and before you start to say I don't have any content, well, we all have experiences, and content is based on experiences. So whatever you've experienced the most or whatever you're looking to experience more of, those are usually the things that your content consists of. And the way that content is delivered is completely up to you. There's the terminology I like to use for this is message over medium. So essentially, we all have messages that we want to give out, and some of us have messages about sales. I want to talk to you about sales. Other people have messages about health and fitness. Other people have messages about habits. Other people have messages about how to shoot good video or how to change your psychology around your eating. But all of that stuff is content, and it's a message, and the medium is just whatever is hot at the time. Right now Snapchat's really hot, so that's a medium, and you make content on there. But it might not be in a few years. Well, it probably will be. But Facebook is a medium. So it's easy to get obsessed with the way content is being distributed, so much so that we lose the idea that the important part is the message, and people will always relate to your message no matter how you share it. So something to think about. Opt-in bribe. In the context of building courses, and then even especially really selling any product, you want to have something that makes people give you an email address or a piece of information in exchange for something that you give them. Now, there are a lot of different models of this. You can, in terms of the opt-in part, you can pay to get those email addresses. You can get them for free. You can get them via SEO. You can have influencers share your stuff. There's lots of ways you can get people to get onto your level, but it's an essential part. Now, in some cases, there is no direct opt-in bribe. In some cases, it's just gaining a subscriber on a channel like YouTube or gaining a follower on a social media platform. In some cases, it's just a listener or a download on a podcast. But whatever this opt-in process is, sometimes the opt-in process is just raising your hand and saying, yes, I like this content. Whatever that process is, eventually it should lead to getting an email address. This is the theory at Rich 20-something. This is our philosophy, and it's been proven to work across all industries. So I don't have any problem with saying that emails are extremely important. They're still very important, and they're going to be important for a long time. The only caveat with this is that you just have to remember that email marketing in itself, while it is extremely powerful, is just one form of getting people to see your stuff, buy your stuff, and pay attention. So while I do worship the email inbox, it's not the only way, and we'll talk about that throughout the week or throughout the weekend. Sales page and sales. So everyone has a different way to end up getting the sales. If you're in the info product space like me, you have a couple different ways to get sales, but mostly it's like a traditional sales page or it's a video that's trying to get sales. But then you have guys like Manish who kind of have like just a Shopify site that people go to, and they don't really need the whole they don't need a fucking huge description, right? They can pretty much just decide if they want to buy it, right?
No.
Yeah.
Or they'd have really good, the places they're coming from, they have to have heard about it and want to buy it already.
Right. And so the sales page itself, it can be something really long, it can be something really short. Sometimes you just direct people to a checkout page, but there has to be the system in place. So these are just things to consider. You have content, they follow you in some way, and usually they give you some sort of information. You direct them, they buy from you. So basic stuff, but we want to get all the right elements into our brains before we start talking about it. So it's an 8-step process to getting your business going. Let's kind of break down each element, and you might want to go ahead and write down all these steps. First thing is content and social, and I think this is really important. This is something that I feel that I'm one of the best in the world at, and it's creating content that gets shared a lot. It's creating content consistently enough to get noticed, and it's creating things that are meaningful enough for people to care about. Whatever type of content that you create, you'll find over and over again that the things that get shared the most, the things that get the most attention, are those things that resonate with the intended audience. The reason why, a few of the reasons why people don't get as much positive feedback on their work is because they either don't necessarily consider the audience that they're speaking to, or they're not being honest enough to really make that connection. And I'm sure all of you guys have read something, seen something, watched something, listened to something, or really just hit you and you realize that that piece of content was supposed to be for you. You understood that that message was relevant to you. Have you guys ever seen something like that online where you're like, oh yes, this is totally me? You know? That's the type of stuff that we strive to put out. We should all be striving to put out. And so to do that, it's going to take continued insight into becoming more honest with your work. This is just an overview, and we'll talk about how to get there later, but that's something to think about. So you create this content, and it directs back to your website and your landing page. So let's talk about just briefly what the main important elements of the landing pages are. And what we have a whole tech breakdown on like how it should look and how it should be set up. But again, website landing page. The most important thing here with any website is that it's very clear what the user has to do. I've seen a lot that people create websites that they think are beautiful and that make sense to them, but they don't make sense to the user. And you probably seen this a lot, right, Ivan?
Yeah.
You know, because you're working with new developers and you're building new sites all the time. What's one of the biggest things? Is this a problem for you? I know. You tell me.
Actually, clients think, clients have a vision and they want to put that vision, but sometimes they don't think about users.
Yeah.
So that's why user experts and user designers exist to actually optimize what users do on a website.
The main problem comes in with like a conflict of what you think you're offering versus what the user is really seeing. So as you're developing your ideas, make sure that you're taking into account what you actually want the user to do, and that's what the website should be built around. Most websites nowadays are pretty much just one-pagers, especially websites that direct to sales processes. A lot of times they're just one-pagers with a deep scroll where there's like a headline, there's an opt-in bribe of some sort, or there's a place to leave your information, and then there's a description about the company or the product or service, and then some more information at the bottom for contact. That's pretty much it. Think about also where your website's being viewed. We all know that mobile is the way that most of us view our content. I still use desktop all the time. I still use my laptop, and it's great for doing things like writing. It's great for doing things like, surfing for a long time. But I'd say that if I had a time tracker, the majority of my time on the internet would be on my phone. So think about that when you're creating a website, and think about making it simple enough where people can navigate it without having to basically have an encyclopedia they have to scroll through. Make it simple enough where people want to continue to consume it rather than just get distracted by everything you have on there. Something to think about. Also, as we talk more about actually developing the websites later, and we're going to use mostly WordPress when we're talking about our stuff, But just make sure that when you're developing the ideas and you're testing the website, that it looks good on mobile, because there's a certain amount of credibility that you have just from having a good user experience, which is something that we're doing now with our new site that we're about to roll out. It looks very good on mobile, and that's important. Opt-in bribes and lead generation, and then warming up those leads. So you have your content, you have your website, and now it's time to start collecting information. I think the thing that people really forget about just lead generation and collecting opt-ins is that there has to be something after that. It's not just about the email list or the followers, it's about the relationship with those people. That's why every single, let's say Instagram account has kind of like a different engagement. And we're talking social media here, not email opt-ins, but similar concept. Every type of audience has a different engagement. So we have 135,000 people on our email list now, and the open rate varies depending on what segment we're mailing and how often we've been mailing. But the responsiveness is a direct reflection of the relationship. And one of the ways that you can build a good relationship is having a great piece of material or content that's going to warm them up when they kind of come into your funnel. And again, if you open your mind and really start to look at the way that different platforms are operating, you can see that many different platforms have ways to warm you up to either the person that you're following or the content you're about to consume. You look on places like YouTube and you see that they have a welcome video on all YouTube pages. Each channel has like an about video. You look on Snapchat or Instagram, and they'll find friends of friends who you like, or they'll find interesting content that you think you're going to like to build your relationship with that platform more. Instagram and Snapchat try to do that so that they can draw you in. And then you sign up for an email list, and they'll send you an autoresponder with interesting insights, tips to help you, coupons, whatever. All those things are meaningful ways to build a relationship. That's the point. When you forget that everyone in your following or everyone on your email list really consists of everyone here, think about it. These are all people who saw an opt-in bribe. They clicked yes, they went through the series, and now you guys are here. That's what you need to remember, because it's very easy to get jaded by the numbers and think, I just need more subscribers. Why isn't this working? Well, relationship, and a very simple way to get that started is with a warm-up series. And it's much easier to decide what product you should build when you have a warm-up series and a good relationship. And my recommendation is that when you're thinking about building your product, kind of in this whole process of starting the business, when you're thinking about the product is best built after you have a relationship with an audience that you're already curating. One question that might come to mind is, well, if I don't have a product yet, what am I building this relationship around, and what should the website be, because I don't have anything to sell? Well, remember, all products are based on ideas, and they're based on problems that they solve. And Manish will talk about this later, but the whole idea of Pavlok was building habits. Building habits, though, is a concept from life, from everyday life. And if you can build a product to solve a problem around that, then great. But there's plenty to talk about on just building habits alone. And you build these audiences, and you design audiences that are going to fit your message when you're ready to launch your product, right? And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You could be in fashion, you could be in fitness, you could be in like consulting or education, you could be in technology, you could be in business. All this type of stuff has an audience, and you can build that audience first, and then you can create the product. And it doesn't matter whether the product is physical or digital or even a service. You can build the audience first. And I'd highly recommend that. Plus, once you do that, the simplest way to kind of get going is just to ask them what they want. And then you can validate a product without having to put a lot of money in or time into it, and you can move more quickly with less risk. So you've built the product, and at some point you're going to have to sell to people that you've attracted. Now, in the context of how we're talking here, I'm saying it's a sales week, but it could be a sales hour, it could be a sales special, it could be a sales day or weekend. It doesn't really, the sales period is kind of irrelevant. In this framework, I'm going to talk about autoresponders, and I'm going to talk about setting up a launch. And so we're going to use concrete periods, like a week here, a week there. But again, remember to start thinking about your own individual ideas and how these will fit in, because everyone's story is different. So like Jordan, for instance, with Jordan and James, she has a tea So maybe it wouldn't make sense to have like a week-long launch of like pushing tea down someone's throat. Like maybe that's not the way to go. There are other ways to do it. But we're talking about concrete intervals here, just so you guys can get an idea of what elements are the most important. Then of course you have the launch. So the sales week, really this is kind of like the warm-up in the sales week, and then eventually you're going to launch the product. So you finally offer it to the world. You finally reveal that it's ready, no matter what it is. And then eventually, if you have a product where this applies, you can automate it. Most digital products can be automated. Pretty much all physical products can be automated, although there are obviously certain limitations depending on production. And consulting services or other in-person services can also be automated to an extent. Just to the extent that you won't necessarily have to talk to every single person that touches your website in order to get a client. Like, Daniel, for instance, has a website that generates money and gets clients, but you don't necessarily talk to every single person right away. They kind of come to you first. First, I kind of want to talk about shaping your online identity, and honestly, I think this is one of my biggest strong suits, so you guys are lucky to be here. We're going to talk about determining what you should sell. We're going to talk about validating your idea. We're going to talk about validating your products. And kind of these three elements create, at least in the beginning, who you are online. Because in the beginning, before you have a track record of, followers or a track record of being successful in a certain area, no one's going to know you for who you are. They're going to know you for, basically what you can tell them and what you can do. They're going to know you because they found you and you helped them with a problem. And so we need to figure out which problem that we should identify as a valid enough problem to solve, and how to validate that idea, and then how to make sure that we turn that into a good product. So some of us here already have products in mind. Some of us here are already kind of moving past that stage into like, how do I sell more of what I've already made? But again, don't take this with a grain of salt, because there might be at least one thing in here that you didn't think about that could change the way that you think about either your next launch or the idea that you're working on now. You guys know my story with freelancing. Most of you guys know my story with freelancing. And for me, the biggest asset there was having a past job where I had a valuable skill that people paid me for, and I turned that into a consulting service, which is SAT, ACT, college prep tutoring. But a lot of us have those skills too that we learned from a job that apply to the skills that other people need in everyday life, and we can turn that into a course or a product or a service based on what we know. Second thing, interests and hobbies, and I like to use a term called idea sex, mostly just because I like saying sex. But I like to think about, right? I like to think about seemingly disparate ideas or ideas that are only tangentially related, and thinking about how they can be combined. So a lot of what we'll see nowadays, especially with bigger followings on social media and even like online product creators, is kind of like the merging of two brands. So this is a good example of how like technology is changing, and the intersection is becoming almost hard to tell whether something's a business or just content or just comedy. If you look at, you guys, anyone know Bro Science? I've never seen Bro Science, the YouTube channel Bro Science.
Bro Science, that's lifting advice from an unqualified pro who looks like he works out. Where can I get you some Bro Science? Fitness magazines. I mean, if you can read, what are you, fucking doctor? Websites?
He's not selling anything on the actual video, but he has multiple sites in his YouTube profile that link to like supplements, which are just insane, by the way. They're supplements. He's doing, which is asking for an email opt-in, which, by the way, this is an AppSumo plugin. You see here, like, here's another one. This is a opt-in for a coupon. It's a different offer than just a free giveaway. It's a coupon. And then he has like merch here, all the shirts that he wears, he'll put on here. So what he did was, like some really crazy ones. Swolorado State. Like, he'll do all these videos, and there's nothing to do except watch. But the more you watch, the more you get drawn to his stuff. And then he creates content around the things that you find funny, but it's kind of like, it's idea sex. It's like fitness plus comedy. And that type of stuff is becoming more popular because, one, it's just more fun to watch. Not just the comedy stuff, but anything that's kind of a combination of two ideas. It's more fun to watch, and because it's engaging to watch, you don't have to be as salesy. Because I want to buy a Swolorado State shirt. You don't have to like pitch me that. Remember that we don't always have to have a product that's kind of just like a boring piece of intellectual property or like a simple physical product. We can now take ideas. We're in a point now in the world where we can take ideas like, I like comedy and I like fitness, and you can actually take two ideas that don't have very obvious tangible products and make products out of those by doing things that are related to your content. And this should open the door up to a lot of ideas for everyone, because everyone has interests and hobbies, and there's usually an intersection where those can come together and make something great and original. Look at this case study, Evolution Eat. So this is DT, this is Daniel's company, Evolution Eat. And this is kind of an idea section. You want to talk a little bit about what Evolution Eat is? And
yeah, so it's one-on-one nutrition coaching, and I'm helping them come up with solutions and strategies and preparation throughout the day. So in real time, where I'm like really intensively working with people to help them overcome the diet. And then it's also a lot of, when you expose those vulnerabilities and weaknesses, when people are sending photos of what they're eating and whether it's good, whether it's bad. So some very basic service, which is send me a photo of your food, we're actually doing like very deep work.
I want you guys to start really opening your minds up to the idea now that we can create physical things out of just ideas now. We don't need to be tied to, I want to make plastic paper cups. Like that's what I think it's going to be. You can, but it doesn't have to be that. And I bet you there's something that you have that you think isn't good enough to become a product or a service that probably is. So don't immediately discount your hobbies and interests. There most likely can be a way to monetize them. So validating your idea. 3 methods to make sure that it's actually a good idea. And the reason why I'm kind of talking about this here is because a lot of people will say when you're first starting off, it's pretty hard to get people to tell you if your idea is good enough or to get enough people in one place to validate what it is that you want to do. It gets easier when you start to build your audience, because then you can actually ask the audience. The best way though is to ask people who are not really inclined to be biased towards you. So like mom is always going to say it's a good idea. Probably, I don't know, it depends on your mom. Minnie's like, But like, you have to ask people that you know are going to be objective, and typically those are going to be, friends who are like historically pretty honest with you, or just like one-off connections. People who are interested in what it is that you might want to do, but don't really have an investment in whether you get your feelings hurt. So that's something important to consider. But sometimes you're just going to have to ask people if your idea is good, and you're going to have to do a lot of like kind of grunt work doing research. You're going to have to kind of be a dork about it. When I first started Rich 20, I was trying to come up with ideas to write. And this was just when I was building my audience, but I wanted to validate that this is something that people want to talk about. So I would go around to my coworkers at the restaurant and I'd be like, what are some ideas you have about like, or what are some problems that you're having, with like figuring out your life right now? Do you want to start a business? Why do you want to? What's important to you? And I had I had 2 notebooks. I had one that was my pad I was writing down food orders on. The other one was like my little notebook for my own personal ideas. And one thing as a content creator and as just a creative person in general is always being receptive to what people are saying and not being so caught up in your own thoughts that you aren't listening to people. We have an idea, we think it's a good idea, we're very passionate and we feel very strongly about it. But when we do that, sometimes we kind of like shut off our external frequency and we don't allow good new ideas to come into our heads. Because of that, sometimes even when we ask people, we won't hear them. So really listen to the words that they use. This is another reason why mimicking trending content or camping out in forums are also really good ways to validate your ideas. So for instance, there's a site called buzzsumo.com. Anyone been to BuzzSumo? Yeah, so buzzsumo.com, write that down. No relation to AppSumo, but kind of surprising that it's not. So BuzzSumo is a website that aggregates social media posts. Someone give me like a search term, like an idea or a topic to find. Networking events. Okay, so this is BuzzSumo, and you might actually change your search term depending on what it is you want to talk about. So networking might not be the term you really want to go with, but look at this. You can see here, these are all the posts that it pulled in their social engagement. So obviously networking is huge on LinkedIn. Good to know, because look at this. Yeah, there you go. 87,000 shares on this post. Let's see, this one, if you're not outside your comfort zone, you won't learn anything. So you can see all these, this is from Harvard Business Review, has 37,000 shares on Facebook, 16 on LinkedIn, 2.5 on Twitter. You can go to the article, you can see all the backlinks that are linking to this content, so you can see who's also, who's linking to it. You can see, I think it might have to be a premium feature. Yeah, you can start to see the people who are sharing this content, so you can see in real time the users who are sharing this stuff. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. And then of course you can share it yourself here, so you can see total shares up here. But this is a great way to figure out like types of keywords that are doing well, the exact headlines that have really worked well. And so one kind of trick or hack that I'll use to figure out if an idea is a good idea, or even if a product is a good idea, is I'll go on places like BuzzSumo, or I'll go into even more specific forums designed for my topic. Even a Reddit, a subreddit, where it's like Reddit / I don't know, baking, if you want to make a baking product, and figure out what people are saying. And I'll go to where the content is, and I'll figure out what's the most popular. Let's go to Reddit for a minute and see if we can find something. So like for instance here, actually, here's a perfect example. Let's say I want to put up an Instagram post, because all content can kind of be like, all content is very fluid. Things that work on one platform generally work in some form on another platform. So I could take an Instagram picture, and I could put a picture of someone standing outside in the woods and say, if you're not outside your comfort zone, you won't learn anything. And I know this is a popular sentiment. Most people click on articles because of the headline. So I know that the headline was a good headline. So I know that headline will do well on Instagram, because Instagram is just headlines. It's just, especially quote pages are just pictures with headlines on them. Surprise, you're practicing copywriting. You're just doing things that people want to click on and share. So this is a good way to find things that work. Let's look at Reddit. This is a free service, by the way, but if you pay, I don't know, it's like $10 a month, but it's really worth it. I think my membership might have expired, but I should get another one because it's very good. What's another topic we can look up? Someone give me a word. Freelancing. Okay, great. And I know they have a Reddit / freelance. Yeah. Okay. So subreddit freelancers. So like, this is a really good idea, or a really good way to find ideas or interesting ideas that people who like your topic want to hear about. So what do we have here? So this is the top one. Oh, this just got put up. Like, and maybe this subreddit is like, maybe we would go to entrepreneurship to find a better one, but freelancing is fine too. So like, these are all problems freelancers are having. Freelancers, how do you handle contracts and payment? Maybe this is something that should go in my course. Someone asked a question about this. Freelancing, 2 years, $230,000 and 9 big lessons. What lessons did they learn? Are those things that are problems that I can solve in a course? There's not always a direct correlation between like, well, he wrote this stuff down and I'm gonna make a product specifically on exactly what he said, but there's really good nuggets of pain points, there's really good insights here. This is how we start to think as product developers. I mean, no matter what type of product you have, even if it's a service, it's still a product in that you're delivering something to someone. So this is how you get good ideas. And this is how, when you see a product that you really like, this is why there's like that feeling in your chest where it just clicks. You're like, oh, this is exactly what I need. Because someone went out and took the time to figure out what it is that you wanted, what it is that you're having a problem with, and then they put that into whatever they created. So that's why this type of research is important. And this is how you validate an idea. If you have an idea that you want to do and you see that someone's having the same problems that you identified already in your head, and look at that, opt-in. Exactly. Now, we can take this right here. Trying to build your freelance business? I'm launching a totally new site full of practical advice to get more clients, increasing rates, and building a life you're stoked about. Interested? So I have to know when we go live, right? So, but you can see, I didn't plan this shit. This is how it works. This is how it works. Connected to. And you don't need that much validation to know that an idea is good. This is another good one that I didn't ask about or didn't talk about. Amazon reviews. I mean, you live on Amazon reviews, right, Manish? But Amazon reviews are a great place to look for pain points and validate product ideas, right? Because what are the reviews full of? People either complimenting or complaining. There's really no in between. It's like, I love this product because feature, benefit. Or I hated this product because it didn't have this, fuck you. And you just figure out what it is. Okay, do all of this stuff, don't do any of this stuff. Okay, I figured out what the product is. And guess what, guys? It doesn't have to be, especially if it's your first thing, it doesn't need to be super elaborate or elegant. It can just be something that works and is slightly better than what's out there. You can always make different, better stuff that like matches your grand vision of being Thomas Edison. That's fine. But like for the beginning stuff, like keep it simple. And you can always just make an improvement on an existing device. And you can learn where to improve by reading things like BuzzSumo and like forums and Reddit and like Amazon reviews. So look for products that are out there in your space, figure out what they're missing, include that, figure out what they're doing well, keep that as well.